Airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
Oregon is going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
This is Duck Insider.
These are good problems to have, right? So much success that you have more than one place to be.
5-3, touchdown! Oregon off a dribble, launches, and hits the three! Oregon leads!
What a great opportunity it is to be able to play at the University of Oregon.
I'm just incredibly proud to be a part of something like this.
She wants another three. Oh, three in a row!
Swing and a miss! Oregon is headed to the Super Regional.
Fans being out there making this a great impact.
We are so privileged and so fortunate. We get to see all these young people. We get to see this incredible growth, which is what college is all about.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck Athletics.
Talking Oregon and Purdue, a Friday night matchup when the Ducks take on the Boilermakers, a 5 o'clock Pacific time kickoff in 2 days. We'll have a 3 o'clock Pacific time pregame show for you across the Oregon Sports Network. I'm curious how many Duck fans from that part of the country we're going to see for some Friday night action when the Ducks visit Purdue. Oregon and Purdue, 8 o'clock local time. Again, a 5 o'clock Pacific time kickoff on Fox. 3 o'clock pregame show. We'll feature a conversation with Nishad Strother. We'll also talk with Amari Washington, of course, Dan Lanning. And this week I talked with a graduate assistant. So it's our graduate assistant spotlight. Ryan Walk, the former Duck, got a chance to catch up with him, had some fun. Encourage you to check that out. And always subscribe to the Oregon Sports Network podcast if you want any of our individual pregame show interviews as well as full game broadcasts. We've all got it for you here on the Oregon Sports Network podcast, and wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us there. We're going to talk with Tim Newton, the voice of the Boilermakers today. Also Marcus Harper, Derrick Harmon, Nico Reed, Justice Lowe, student-athletes meeting with the media as well. And tonight, the Oregon Football Coaches Show. Dan Lanning will join us here in the Country Financial Studio just after 7 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network. And if you're watching on the Oregon Football social media channels as well as the Go Ducks YouTube, you'll be able to catch us there. Kobe Savage will join us as well, the veteran defensive back for the Ducks. Coming off a great weekend and now heading into a short week, in the midst of a short week. Oregon against Purdue, a Purdue team that we're going to learn much more about with Tim Newton, voice of the Boilermakers. That kicks us off today. Talking with the guy who have the call on the Purdue radio network. We actually sat down with him yesterday, getting to know the Boilermakers and what they're thinking about heading into this matchup, our chat with Tim Newton. Okay, so we have to start with our tradition. I did not warn you, Tim, that I was going to do this, and I never do. Every time somebody comes on the show for the first time, I ask you to tell your 2-minute life story. 2-minute life story. How did you get to where you are? Tim Newton, what do you got for me? I'm timing it. Ready, set, go.
Okay, all right. I grew up in Western New York, just outside Buffalo. Lifelong Bills fan, Sabres fan, and Yankees fan.
All right.
I came to Purdue to be a sports broadcaster because at the time, Howard Cosell was my idol. Now, as I've matured, I've realized that was a very stupid thing to have as a person to have as an idol. But anyway, long story short, I have basically stayed in West Lafayette every year but one since I graduated. And this is my 35th. I'm in my 35th year doing women's basketball, my 30th year doing Purdue football. I also work full-time at the university. I work right now in the business school, and I'm in year 25 of that. And I'm retiring from that job next year, but keeping the radio gig until they kick me out. So
Yes.
Married with 2 adult kids. There you go. I think I've got time left over.
Oh, you got a ton. That was 40 seconds. 40 seconds. That's broadcaster efficiency right there, Tim. So
that's the guy that's nearing retirement, and he's trying to conserve energy.
Well, I love it. I love it so much. So I have to ask, I love, first of all, that you said you're a lifelong Sabres fan. We have a friend of the program in the area who is our resident Yankees guru and big-time fan. I love that you said Sabres. So grew up a sports fan, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my dad took me to my first Bills game when I was 6 years old, and to tell how long ago that was in the AFL.
Right.
And the quarterbacks were Joe Namath and Jack Kemp.
Hey, not a bad matchup.
Not a bad match. And the Bills won the game 20-17. Never forget it.
Yeah,
down 17-0 going to the fourth quarter and won the game.
I love that. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, so now the obvious question, I'm glad that you brought up. I was thinking that you're in a unique and elite status as one of the mayors of West Lafayette based on your tenure, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. Is that a fair assessment?
I've been around a while, yeah. You know, I got dropped off in the middle of campus when I was a freshman, 17 years old, and that was, 46 years ago this fall. So I don't like to move. I guess that's probably the bottom line. I just don't like to pack boxes and move. But it's been, as I tell people all the time, and you guys, I will appreciate you coming and spending some money in West Lafayette. We say West Lafayette's a great place to live, but you wouldn't want to visit. It's not a tourist destination. It's a great place to raise a family. We've got great public schools here. You know, you've got the campus scene and a nice, vibrant downtown, but we don't have things that people don't come to West Lafayette, Indiana to vacation. They drive through West Lafayette on their way to vacation, but they don't stop here to vacation.
Right, but then it's still a great place. So I was going to ask you, West Lafayette. I have never been there, and a little bit of an inside the broadcast story for you, Tim. A former Boilermaker long snapper, John Finch. He is now one of our sales executives here for the Oregon Sports Network.
John Finch.
Yeah, so
number 96 in your program, number 1 in your heart.
That's right. See, John. Oh, John will love that you said that, Tim. So I've only gotten the scouting report on West Lafayette and what the stadium environment's going to be like from John. For Duck fans that maybe are making the trip for a tourist destination, what should we expect?
Well, West Lafayette is across the river from Lafayette. The Wabash River divides the two cities. Purdue, the campus at Purdue has campus-wide we have 52,000 students. In West Lafayette, probably on campus about 40,000 or so. The stadium seats 60 to 61,000. It's been renovated the last few years. It's a natural grass surface, which I think is a little bit unique these days. It is Bermuda grass, so it looks more like artificial, but it is natural grass. And to our fans' credit, after a 4-8 season last year, Purdue sold out its season tickets this year. And they've been well attended for the first 3 games. Now, there are still tickets available as of this taping for Friday night. I don't know how many, but I would expect, again, given Purdue's 1-5 start, you might have some people that'll watch it on TV or listen to it on the radio, we hope.
Right.
But it'll be a good crowd, and it will be a well-lubricated crowd because it is a Friday night at 8 o'clock. We have a tradition in West Lafayette. This is particularly for noon games and 3:30, which is when most of our games kick off. But there's a tradition with students called Breakfast Club, where basically the bars open at 7 or 8 o'clock, and kids come dressed in Halloween costumes, pajamas, whatever they rolled out of bed from the night before, and they make it an all-day affair. And I would imagine for an 8 o'clock kickoff, you're going to have a lot of kids that have been up a long time.
Yeah, we just were familiar with that because of ESPN's Game Day being here. I also teach in our journalism school, Tim, and let's just say my 8 a.m. class on Monday, there was a lot of hoarse voices, a lot of lost voices.
Yeah. I can understand that. It's a tradition that started after I was out of school, but I would have loved to partake. Although I was working as a student when I was at Purdue, I worked all the football games, so probably couldn't have gone anyway.
Yeah.
We did all that stuff after the game.
That's right. How's Purdue changed academically and athletically in your tenure? Can you put that into a minute or two?
Yeah, Purdue has a great reputation in engineering. It's a very STEM-oriented school. It's a land-grant university going back to Abraham Lincoln and the Morrill Grant, Land Grant Act. It is the cradle of astronauts. We have more astronauts produced than any non-military institution, including the first and last men to walk on the moon. Wow. Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan were both Purdue grads. Very good agriculture school. We've got a pharmacy school, a vet school. Obviously, I work at the business school, but it's very. You have Indiana University in the southern part of the state, which is more liberal arts based. They've got a law school down there and a medical school, whereas Purdue has the science, technology, and engineering really stronghold in the state. And that's really what Purdue, from the academic side. Athletically, facilities have changed. Mackey Arena, which I think Duck fans will enjoy. I don't know if the players will enjoy it, but I think the fans will enjoy it. It's a great atmosphere. Mackey Arena is sold out for every game this year in men's basketball and has been for the past several years. We're playing in a catch-up mode, and I've been out to Oregon to their facilities. We're never going to keep up with those Joneses. We don't have a Nike or a sneaker company funding a lot of our athletics, so it's always going to be in the Big Ten for us as kind of a small market school or a small market campus. It's a struggle to keep up, but I think Purdue's been very competitive. Obviously, Final Four last year in men's basketball. I broadcast a women's basketball national championship in '99. Our women's golf team won a national championship. So we've had some occasional success, but it's, I think, as the Big Ten expands and as we add the schools like Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, it's going to be harder and harder for schools in our cluster to compete in the Big Ten.
That's the voice of the Boilermakers, Tim Newton, joining us. So we've got more to come as we continue to preview this matchup. I'm putting on the investigative journalist hat. We're diving into Shout. We're going to find some things out when we come back on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
More Duck Insider from the Country Financial Studios after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You know you make me wanna kick my heels up and throw my hands up and throw my head back and come on now, so good to see you real.
Tonight we've got the Oregon Football Coaches Show. We're also going to talk a little bit more about Shout. It's Duck Insider presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Joey Mack here in the Country Financial Studio. So Oregon and Purdue both play Shout. I'm curious to see what it's like on Friday. Both on the sideline, for us in the booth. You know, we stay on the air during Shout at home. Should we stay on the air for Shout on the road? I don't know. Anyway, continuing with Tim Newton, voice of the Boilermakers, getting the view from the other side of this Friday Night Lights matchup, Ducks at Purdue at 5 o'clock on Friday. Tomorrow's Duck Insider, for those of you who watch the show live, we will do the show from 10 to 11 in the morning in order to catch the flight with the team headed out to Purdue. 10 to 11. We'll make some picks. Gonna have some fun making some picks. All right, let's hear part 2 of our conversation with Tim Newton, voice of the Boilermakers. Boilermakers, that is one of the best mascots in any sport.
The Boilermaker name came from back in the early days of Purdue football. They played a school called Wabash, which is down in Crawfordsville, Indiana. It's about a half an hour away. This was around the turn of the century in 1900 or so. And the local newspaper accused Purdue of hiring ringers to play in the football game, which may or may not have been true. And they called us various names. They called us rail splitters. My favorite was pumpkin shuckers. But another name they came up with was Boilermakers. And our student body loved it, and they decided to adopt that as the school nickname, and that's how we became known as the Boilermakers.
That's awesome. Can we get an honorary pumpkin chucker for some games in October? I mean, what do we think?
I think that'd be awesome, right? I mean, so we're pretty close to Halloween, so that's okay.
That's great. I absolutely love that. Okay, so now the Oregon-Purdue connection. I'm sure that there's been much conversation about this, and the Oregon broadcaster has to ask the Purdue broadcaster this. For Purdue, what's the origin and the meaning of shout?
I don't know. I don't know how it started or who started it, but I think we had it before you did, I believe. They were looking for something to do at the end of the third quarter, and I have no idea whose idea that was. Now, Animal House was filmed at Oregon, right?
That's
University
correct.
of Oregon on the campus. So, I mean, you guys have a natural in for it. I don't know how it started. I will tell you this, the jump around that Wisconsin does at the end of the third quarter started with a Purdue game.
Huh.
It started back in 1998, and it was the night that Drew Brees set the NCAA record by throwing 83 passes in one game. It was a 6 o'clock local time kickoff. Now you can imagine Wisconsin, homecoming, and a lot of time to drink beer. And so those fans were looking for something to do that night, so they started to play jump around, and that's been a tradition there for a quarter century. But I have no idea whose idea it was actually to do shout.
So you're telling me that Purdue's got a connection to two of the greatest traditions between the third and the fourth quarters across the country.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to take credit for it.
I would, right? I mean, I get it. Well, I just have to tell you, Tim, this is my mission this week to get multiple perspectives on shout. I'm putting on the old investigative journalist hat, and I'm trying to find out what the connection is, if there is one, if it's just a complete anomaly that these two schools just started doing it. Maybe it was because of Animal House. I don't know. This is my mission to find out.
It could be. Now, what are your fans? Because our fans, I think it's split. I think the students really enjoy it because it gives them a chance to. Our alumni, a lot of our alumni don't like shout.
Really?
They think there should be another song, or it's not hip enough, it's not modern enough, whatever.
Huh.
But it's fine. We're in a commercial. We're in a commercial anyway. I'm either eating popcorn or heading to the restroom during shout.
Yeah,
anyway, so.
I get that. Now I will tell you. I mean, so this is the level it is for us. Our broadcast, Tim, we stay on the air during shout at home. To let people enjoy it. That's how much it is.
Yeah, I think I actually did. I may have heard that a little bit on Saturday. We do have a connection, though. Purdue and Oregon have an athletic connection. Mark Wazakowski.
That's right.
Baseball coach. Waz had a really short but successful tenure here, and we weren't surprised. We knew he has a lot of West Coast roots, so we weren't surprised he went back out there. But he was a real shot in the arm for Purdue at baseball for the time he was here. Got us back in the tournament, and
Yeah, he's a darn good coach. Speaking from
I think they're coming. I think you're coming here this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think maybe Oregon might be coming out to West Lafayette.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Baseball schedule, as last I knew, is taking shape with the
By
new
the way,
conference.
if it's in April, good luck, because it may be 32 degrees with the wind blowing sideways and a little bit of rain. So.
75
fun
and
with
sunny.
that.
75 and sunny all the time when it's baseball. That's how I feel. Word on the street is I think Waz might actually be making the trip, Tim. I think that he might be making the trip.
I hope so. I hope he is. I'd love to see him again.
Yeah.
I did a story on Mark for the Purdue Athletics magazine.
Cool.
So I haven't talked to him in quite a while, though.
He's an awesome guy. All right, now the season. We've talked about everything but football so far.
Well, it's been pleasant so far, Joey. Now you're going to get into you're going to make me explain a 1-5 football season.
Well, let me start. I appreciate you, Tim. Let me start backed up a little bit, though. I mean, a second-year head coach coming off that 4-8 season. You mentioned the season tickets, Tim. I mean, what was the expectation coming into the season?
I think the expectation was a little bit tempered because you looked at the schedule. Okay, right. You're playing Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame right off the bat. playing Wisconsin. Purdue, the last time Purdue beat Wisconsin was 2003. Okay, it's now 18 in a row. One of your non-conference games is against Oregon State, and you're traveling out to Corvallis to play that. You're playing Nebraska, which again is a peer school. You're playing Illinois. You're playing Indiana. You look at the schedule and you're looking and saying, I'm not sure you can get to 6. I'm not sure you can get to 5, maybe 4, and then you get off to a bad start. A great opening game. I mean, Indiana State was like a glorified scrimmage, but then the second week, a lot of expectations. Purdue had a bye week after the first week, so they had 2 weeks to get ready for Notre Dame, and it worked so well that the Boilermakers trailed 42-0 going into the locker room. And, 66-7 was the final. It was the worst defeat in Purdue's history. And I think a lot of fans were shell-shocked. I think maybe the players and coaches were a little bit shell-shocked. The next week they go out to Oregon State and again get off to a slow start and wind up losing that game. And then you come home and you lose to Nebraska, and then you go up to Wisconsin to get your doors blown off there. The first half of the Notre Dame game and the second half of the Wisconsin game, Purdue got outscored 73-0 in those two. And it was every bit as bad as it sounds. And then last week, you go to Illinois and you're down 27-3 5 minutes into the third quarter, and you're thinking, well, here we go again. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but somehow Purdue's offense scores 40 points in the third and fourth quarter. And then they score a touchdown in overtime, try to go for 2, and obviously came up 1 point short.
Yeah, I feel like, though, that game, you get this big comeback, and this is where it's amazing how one play can change things, I feel like, right, Tim? Because when I was tuned in, it's like, man, you get that 2-point conversion, and all of a sudden Oregon fans are going, oh, boy, this Boilermaker team, they got some confidence. They're riding high right now. It's amazing.
That would have been the greatest comeback in Purdue football history. Up until then, it was an 18-point comeback when Drew Brees was a quarterback against Michigan. And we fully concurred with the decision to go for 2. I think at that point, your offense was hot. Your defense was not, and you had already hit 2-point conversions. So they felt pretty good about the play. If you go back and look at it, he had a running back open right off the bat. But what really hurt was there was a tight end that broke open just as Illinois sent a blitzer, and that made Ryan Brown go back and have to snake and a little bit. And when he had his back turned, Max Clare, the tight end, broke absolutely wide open in the end zone. If Ryan had even just a split second to be able to lob the ball up, we'd have a whole different result, but not the way it worked.
And we'd be having a whole different conversation. Voice of the Boilermakers, Tim Newton, joining us. I'm Joey Mack here in the Country Financial Studio. More to come on Duck Insider, continuing to get ready for some Friday Night Lights and learning a bit more about Purdue. We also hear from Marcus Harper, a few other student athletes, coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial. Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you here in the Country Financial Studio. Tomorrow morning from 10 to 11, we will do the show live for those of you who watch. No show here on the Oregon Sports Network on Friday because we've got a 3 o'clock pregame show coming your way across the Oregon Sports Network. Oregon at Purdue, another Friday game, the last of 2 Friday games for the Ducks this season, and they happen to be in close proximity to each other. Ducks are kind of used to it. We'll talk with Coach Lanning on the Oregon Football Coaches Show tonight, just after 7 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network. You can watch the show live on the Oregon Football social media channels as well as the Go Ducks YouTube, where you might be watching Duck Insider right now. Part 3 of our conversation with the voice of the Boilermakers, Tim Newton. Sat down with him earlier talking about this matchup under those Friday night lights. Our chat with Tim Newton. I understand that the QB spot, there were questions for Coach Walters, and he called I mean, it sounds like from this game some things changed in play calling and what's going to happen at quarterback moving forward. Update Duck fans if you could.
Well, so, Ryan Walters came here as a defensive-minded coach. He was the defensive coordinator at Missouri and had great success. He was the defensive coordinator at Illinois, had one of the top units in the country, came here with this reputation as a great defensive mind. The defense has not played very well the last 2 years. He decided, though, because the offense, part of the reason the defense had struggled early is the offense couldn't stay on the field. And so they made a decision after a couple of weeks ago to fire Graham Harrell, who was the offensive coordinator. And Ryan actually called the offense this last week against Illinois, the first game in his life he's ever called the offense and called the plays. And, they wind up scoring 49 points. So he's going to continue to do that. The quarterback situation, I think, will be perhaps unsettled, although Ryan Brown will start again this week. He has been named the starter. We don't know at this point if Hudson Card will be cleared to play. He suffered a concussion 2 weeks ago against Wisconsin, so last week he was in protocol, had not been cleared to play, and I don't know what his status is for this week. But the thing that they like about Brown, and I think you see it with college quarterbacks all the time, is his ability to run. They can run that option play. They can, and he's got the ability to take a broken play and make something good out of it. So I do think that they've found a little bit of a spark there. He's a completely different personality. Hudson Card is a very reserved guy. Doesn't say very much. He lets his play do the talking. Ryan Brown is a redshirt freshman, but he's 21 years old, and he is very vocal. You could see him on the sidelines Saturday getting in with the defense, getting in with the offense, and getting guys fired up. So he's got a real fiery personality, and it seemed to me that the players really responded to it last week. But he'll be the guy at least to start on Friday night.
Yeah, listening to Coach Walters in his press conference this week, he was complimentary of the way that Ryan Brown played. How could you not be when you go and score
absolutely.
49 points?
I will tell you, I've never had a game before where we had a quarterback who threw in the first half, threw for a total of 9 yards, and in the second half threw for 288 yards.
Yeah, that's
same
something.
Game, same guy.
That's something. Now, you touched on the defense, Tim. I mean, what is the breakdown of the defense? Still searching for some things, it sounds like.
Yeah, the tackling has not been good. I said earlier we're a STEM school. We're math-based. Our guys haven't taken good angles, so maybe they need to take some more of those math classes. They just seem to be caught out of position. And the one thing that's really hurt Purdue more than anything else is teams have been able to turn the corner, whether that's on a jet sweep, whether that's on a quick option. They have not been able to set the edge very well, and teams have taken advantage. And every team we've played so far has run a number of either reverses, jet sweeps, something that's a misdirection that's going to try to get to the edge. And I'm sure Oregon would be crazy not to try something like that on Friday night. So that's been a problem. The secondary play has been spotty. Last week you go up 43-40 against Illinois with 46 seconds to play, and you give up a 32-yard completion and a 27-yard completion. Those can't happen. You take either one of those plays away, and Purdue wins the football game. So it's just been a combination of they haven't had many takeaways. Until the 5th game of the year, they had 0 takeaways. They got 2 interceptions against Wisconsin, and then they had a fumble, a scoop and score fumble against Illinois last week. But the defense has not been able to force many turnovers, which, again, when your offense was struggling earlier, you need a little help from the defense, and they weren't able to do that.
Final thoughts for Tim Newton, who will have the call on the Purdue radio network coming up on Friday night. I always like to ask, especially now in this new Big Ten era, Tim, what's the view from Boilermaker fans and from the Boilermakers themselves of Oregon? I mean, what is the sense in this realignment with Oregon now a conference brethren?
Well, you think the swoosh, because you think Oregon, you think Nike right off the bat. The funny thing, I was in the Big Ten as a student here when we actually had 10. And then
when math mattered.
Wow, when math mattered. Penn State was the first. And it took probably for me about a decade to figure out or to really accept, okay, Penn State's one of us now. Then Nebraska was next. And then it was Rutgers and Maryland. And we're still trying to that to me still doesn't feel like a Big Ten trip when you go out. And now you're flying 3 time zones out the other way with Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC. As an older guy, I don't like long flights. So, but the nice thing is I've been now to East Lansing, Michigan, and Iowa City, Iowa, 40 or 50 times. I'm looking forward to spending more time in Eugene and Seattle and a little bit more in Los Angeles, just for somewhere different to go on the road. But I will say it has made, as I said earlier, it's made life more difficult for the middle pack of the Big Ten. And I think certainly in all sports except men's basketball, we would probably be in that. And volleyball. Volleyball is a very good sport here. It's in a top 10 sport. But it's made our lives and our athletic lives more difficult because you've headed 4 really quality athletic programs into the conference. And, Oregon's going to be a handful. I think Oregon and Ohio State, the best 2 teams in our schedule. And I think you'd have to say after last week that Oregon is the best team. So we're ready to see a great team in action on Friday night.
I agree. Looking forward to going to some of these new places. That I'll tell you, like for Jerry and Jorgie, who have been at this for near 4 decades, they feel the same way, Tim. Just that get to go to some of these new places. Finally, I always end with keys to success. So Purdue gets a win if what happens on Friday?
If the moon is in its 7th sun and Jupiter aligns with Mars, and I think they've got to be at least a +2 or 3 in takeaways. Oregon's going to have to help. And you go back to Purdue beating Ohio State back in 2018 when the Buckeyes were ranked number 2 and flying high. Ohio State really helped Purdue that night, made a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties, turned the ball over. I think Oregon's going to have to help Purdue. I think Purdue needs to have some early success. In 6 games, they have a total of 7 first-quarter points, and those were all in the opener. You can't fall behind a team like this 2 or 3 touchdowns and expect to come back. And I think just a little bit of Friday night magic, a little bit of magic is going to have to happen because, again, this is a really talented Oregon team. And frankly, although, Ryan Walters is trying to build something, it's not built yet. And so this is a rebuilding program at Purdue. And I think the spread is probably a fair spread, about a 4-touchdown spread. That's probably about the gap right now between these teams.
Tim Newton, our guest. Tim, thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to shaking your hand in person when we get to West Lafayette, sir. Thank you.
We will welcome you with open arms, and as I've told people before, make sure the Oregon fans bring all their cash because we like to spur the local economy when the fans come in. So thank you for being here.
I like it. Thanks, Tim. I loved that from Tim. I mean, look, there's no doubt about it. We've talked about a lot of times on this program how the economic driver of a lot of this in the athletic department is football. It's sometimes 7 home dates a year. Well, that's true for Purdue also. It's a college town in West Lafayette. I loved his description of, it's not a tourist place, but it's the exact opposite. You want to raise a family here. In Oregon, to that point, like, the local economy is for sure stimulated by everything that happens with football, every other sport that goes on here around the University of Oregon. I thought that was a cool perspective just to hear that from a guy who's been doing it for about as long as Jerry has in that chair, which is pretty cool, talking with Tim Newton. My thanks to the voice of the Boilermakers, getting a little bit of perspective on Purdue and the team that Ryan Walters, the second-year head coach. I'm going to ask Coach Lanning this tonight. What does the scout look like? Because they looked like a very different team, not only with a different quarterback last week in Ryan Brown, but also a different play caller in Ryan Walters after Graham Harrell was relieved of his offensive coordinator duties. A little different than at the start of the season for the Boilermakers. And they have a history of being an upset team. Got to get ready. That's exactly what Marcus Harper is going to talk about when we come back. The Oregon offensive lineman, some great perspective on traveling across time zones and keeping that energy up at practice. Talking with Marcus Harper next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear autumn leaves, you won't be covering roads alone this season. Take on fall in the powerful Toyota Tundra or tackle trails in a Tacoma. Head to Toyota.com for more info. Toyota, let's go places.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Dear autumn leaves, you won't be covering roads alone this season. Take on fall in the powerful Toyota Tundra or tackle trails in a Tacoma. Head to Toyota.com for more info. Toyota, let's go places.
This is Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost. I had snapped. I had a gun and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still a life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone. Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
You say you'd never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I want you to know. I said I want you to know right now. You've been good to me, baby. Better than I've been.
Talked with a few student athletes this week as we welcome you back to Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. And Marcus Harper, always, I mean, he's going to be a broadcaster at some point, some kind of content creator when he's done. Had great perspective, I thought, on what it's like crossing time zones, where this season, so far, after last weekend, Big Ten teams are 2-10 when crossing multiple time zones. Ducks trying to buck that trend when they're on the road on a short week in this matchup with Purdue. Marcus Harper, the Oregon offensive lineman, talking about where the Ducks have gotten better pass protection and also that veteran awareness when you've got a short week and when you cross time zones. Marcus Harper with the media this week.
To have righted the ship from the first couple of weeks, how do you explain what all you're doing as a unit to get the results you're getting?
Just sticking to our process and staying down true to what we know. We know who we are as an offensive line unit. We know the standard that we set for ourselves, and we know the work that we have put in, we continue to put in. So just sticking through that. Sometimes, like, you get thrown some tests early just to try to see how you're gonna react to it. And I know we reacted well, and so just keep stacking, just keep moving forward.
How much do you feel like the unit needed this past one, Marcus? Where yes, whatever you achieved the previous 3 games, not taking anything away, but you knew the caliber of the matchup was a little different.
It's always great to go against talent that is very high, very well respected around the nation. You know what I'm saying? And that's very it's a good test for, yourselves to see, like, how do you match up against some of the best players in the nation. And so we did our job, and now we're just looking forward to our next matchup at Purdue.
How do you feel like you
No, I did. I did great. Focus on obviously just Purdue and that matchup moving forward. But obviously well-respected opponents. They got up front at Purdue and are ready to just continue to dominate on the short week that we got.
Specifically in terms of pass protection, I think 7 sacks the first 2 weeks, 0 the last 4. What's changed? I know there's talk of maybe meetings behind the scenes to kind of get everything squared away, but can you walk us through? That's a pretty big improvement.
Yeah, I think it took a lot for the offensive line to figure out what 5 we're going to be, finding our what am I trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Our fluidity, I guess, together. And I feel like it just, that's the byproduct of it in those early weeks. We got some guys in there that, bouncing back and forth between sides and everything like that. We kind of settled in and figured out what we needed to hone in on. Dylan got comfortable with us, and we figured out how he likes to, set up in the pocket and things of that nature, how he likes to roll out, step up, all those different nuances, they play a part in understanding, how, what we need to do as offensive linemen. And once we figured that thing out, now we're starting to see the byproduct of that, great pass protection. So, like I said, it took a couple of bumps early on, but I know for sure that once we got those bumps out, got those meetings together, understood how he likes to go about his business and how we do our thing, proof is in the pudding.
It obviously starts with the players, Marcus, but you also have a lot of coaches in that room. So
yeah.
Who deserves credit for, because there's a lot of them in the law firm. So
yeah.
who all led the situation?
It starts with the head one, Coach Terry. That's not our standard. Like I said, 7 sacks and I don't know how many games it was, but that's just not our standard. And it was on stuff that we just know that we work every single day. And we just know it was sometimes we were coming back and it felt like a loss, even though we were having a win. But we just buckled down on our process, knew we needed to clean up, attack those things, and now just execute it in games. And so that's what we just continue to do week in and week out, and just continue just to look forward. Not looking back and oh my gosh, what are we doing? What we did, we're just trying to just keep improving.
Short week. Yeah. What did you learn from that first Friday game that you guys have already played in?
You got to get a lot of sleep because you lose a day of recovery. You got to get a lot of sleep just to get your body. Try to get up ahead of the process, just even kind of make it neutralized. So sometimes you can do all the treatment in the world, but I heard the best treatment is just sleep. So sometimes for me, as an older guy, that's just a little bit of a longer nap than 30-something minutes. It might be hour and a half, but it truly does it does get me going. Obviously your eating plays a part into that. Because now we're going to Indiana and you're changing time zones, that plays all a part in terms of just swelling and things and just, everything in your body. So yeah, just making sure that you get that recovery up. And it's kind of hard, obviously we all got school and stuff like that, but any little small chance you get you a little nap in, and I'm telling you, it makes the biggest of difference.
You didn't have any family out for the game?
Oh my God, bro. Yeah, I had I think 9 tickets I had to reserve. But it was kind of cool. My parents actually came to the Ohio State game. My dad, my bonus mom, my aunt, and that was pretty cool to kind of have them in the stands. I got so used to not having, true family, immediate family in the stands. And so to kind of have them in the stands it took me back to some high school moments, and to have them come to Indiana, that's gonna be real fun. So I'm just happy to get to come to see some of my last college games and just enjoy these moments with me.
What are these next 2 ones going to mean to you, Mark? Because between you visited there, you went there, and you were committed to Illinois, and so what are these 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's I don't know. For me, it's kind of, I could look back and see, respect to those schools, but I just see myself man, what I've been I don't think I would have been this person had I, stayed that close to home, whether going to Illinois or Indiana. I think this version of myself had to get, uncomfortable and kind of come out this far. And so it's kind of just it's a surreal moment to kind of see okay, Oregon's coming back and playing, the Purdue. And no one's, like you said, unless you know me, no one knew that I was, going to Purdue or I committed to Illinois. But it's kind of it's a surreal moment to see, wow, these schools that I committed to way back in the day, I'm coming around and I'm playing them, even though they're different staffs and everything like that. But it's kind of cool to play close to home, play these games with my family. They don't have to travel too far out of there, out of Chicago to come see me. And it's gonna mean a lot. Every game means a lot, but it does add a little bit something extra when your family's in the crowd knowing that they got your back. So,
as somebody who's made the trip east a couple of hours in the past, do you think that's gonna play an impact in terms of playing a football game? There's been a lot of data on teams haven't done as well going east or going west this year in the Big Ten, but
yeah,
I guess somebody who's been through that, does that ring true to you?
For a lot of, if you don't make that travel on the regular, you don't know how to handle it. I'm sorry, my bad. I kind of know how to do it. Again, the biggest thing is just sleeping, eating, and making sure like you just try to decrease a lot of inflammation in your body. Like again, like you're bumping over those time zones. You got to get active real quick. Like hydration is a big thing too. Like you got to make sure you're hydrating. I know you don't want to on the plane, but like that's the biggest thing. But yeah, like I said, just sleep. And then once you get adjusted to that time zone, like just kind of get yourself like acclimated to that time zone because I think they're 3 hours ahead if I'm not mistaken. So that's different from over here, you know. So by the time you look up, it's a lot faster pace over there. By the minute you go to sleep, you'll wake up and it's like, oh, like I'm not expecting it to be this time zone, but sleep, get acclimated to that time zone real quick because you know, like you got to play a game, you know, because 8 o'clock over there is essentially like 5 o'clock over here, so it shouldn't be too bad. But if you've never done that before, like it'll mess with you a little bit. So you just got to hurry up and get adjusted to it. So luckily I'm from over there, so they can ask me if they need some help.
In terms of looking at their defense, what do you see from their linebacker? I realize he might be a little bit on the edge, but he kind of lines up.
Just bounces back and forth between playing on the edge and playing at the linebacker depth. You know, you got to account for him and just make sure you ID him and understand like where he's at on the line, whether he's on the line of scrimmage or whether he's back a couple yards off the ball. But just making sure you account for him, and you know, we just continue to do our thing. We got a great game plan that our coaches put together in such a short week, and you know, we just got to continue to go out there and execute like we're doing, and we'll be successful.
Big picture, Marcus, you're one of the guys who's here obviously for the number of years yet. So you saw the 21 win at Ohio State.
Yeah.
You were here for the start of Dan's tenure against Georgia.
Yeah.
How, from a player's perspective, the last 2.5 seasons, if 49-3 was the gap 2.5 years ago, and now you just went and did this and showed you're at their level now.
Yeah.
How have you all gone about doing this?
I mean, we just trusted Coach Lane and his process, and like the core principles that he's brought over to this program, and we truly bought in and believe what he can do, and we bought in like fully. I think every person on this team can attest, like whatever Coach Lane had, like he has for us in this plan, like we've all bought in, and we we're going to execute it. So whether that's spiders, whether it's full pass, and whether he gives us the option to choose, like we know we're a physical team. We bought into that, and we know that's the mentality that you got to play with. Whether it's Big Ten, Pac-12, SEC, ACC, like that's just the mindset that he brings. And sometimes it's not for everybody. So the people weeded themselves out, and so to see those sometimes those 4 days a week in pads, they pay off in moments like that because you just know that you're built for tough situations when you got 60,000 plus in the stadium, and you just know that you can go out there and execute because the work that you put in time and time again. And so it's great to be a part of moments like that because people, I think Cav said it, like he's 30 years in the game and he probably had a scenario like that like 2 or 3, 4 times in his career, so you just enjoy moments like that. And then when you come out on the other side of it and, continue to move forward and just know that that's our standard now. Like that's what we bring. Like when you see Oregon football, like that's what you see. You know you got to continue to execute. And so we know we put the work in to make that a reality. That's not something that we just say. That's something we just go out there and execute. So we just know the work that we put in behind the scenes, and we're just happy to continue to go execute and show it out for our fans. So.
Marcus Harper, Oregon offensive lineman. Sleep is important. Hydration is important, particularly with the short weeks and crossing time zones. I know it's one of those things like you hear him talk about it, and it sounds so like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then the actual practicality of it, getting that sleep, getting that hydration, that's what's talked about amongst everyone around this facility. As you get ready to get on that airplane. I just appreciate a veteran in Marcus Harper. And when he was on the coaching show with us a couple weeks ago, that was what he talked about. Like the way that he takes care of his body off the field is maybe what's changed the most. One of the things that's changed the most about him. I just appreciated that perspective from Marcus Harper. Quick time out. When we come back, Derrick Harmon, Nico Reed, Justice Lowe, all met with the media. Get to as many of them as we can after this in the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial. Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you. On the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Duck Insider is presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you in the Country Financial Studio. We just heard from Marcus Harper, now getting ready for Oregon and Purdue. Friday night on Fox at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 3 o'clock pregame show for us across the Oregon Sports Network. Derrick Harmon, Oregon defensive lineman. What a critical play. Many critical plays, but one that we're going to remember is when you get those hands on that ball and the running back's got it and you rip it away from him, that's pretty sweet. Derrick Harmon talking about that and getting ready for this matchup with Purdue, and they want to maintain some energy at practice. The Oregon defensive lineman talking with us this week.
Take us through that fumble recovery or strip. It looked kind of like you went straight for the ball, not even from the tackle. What was that like?
Just playing the defense. Coach put me in a good position to make the play, just made the play.
Have you ever had a play like that where you just ripped the ball out and just had it land right in your lap?
Not in the game. We practiced a few times at state. I envisioned just ripping the ball out.
We asked Jeff after the game just what was it like when he came up with that interception that didn't end up getting overcalled, just to come back on defense the next drive and be able to have a play like that. What was the conversation like on the sideline, in the huddle, kind of before that defensive drive where you got the fumble?
Defense got to come up. We knew it was going to be a tough game, a shootout. Those guys had good players over there. They got a good team over there. And we knew it was going to be a defensive game for us. And up front, we knew it was going to be on us to win that game for us. So that's all that was.
Derrick, what have these last couple of weeks been like for you personally, just playing against Michigan State and then having this big win against Ohio State?
It's been good. I'm really in season mode. I'm really not trying to hear all the outside noise. I'm just trying to focus on the season, do my best to help my team win.
How do you stay focused week to week?
Just knowing that I got a good team around me, just staying with God. God got my back, so that's pretty much it for me.
What was the foundation for your off-season, the type of work that led into this season?
One more time?
The foundation for you for this season, obviously, strong start to the year. The off-season, what did it look like for you this past year?
No, just working, man. Nothing really changed for me. Just I know this year I had to show up, really. For me, I've been in college. It's my fourth year. Just got to show up. That's that senior year. So.
What did the loss of Jordan mean for you guys over the weekend? And what was the key to overcoming being without one of your better players?
It hurt, of course, but he's gonna come back and help us out soon, sooner than later for sure. It hurt us though, but we guys had to step up, next man up mentality. Just waiting for him to come back.
What's the intensity been like in practice the last couple of days?
It's been intense. We don't want guys to fall off because we don't want to take this game lightly. It's a big game. Every game we have is a big game to us. So that's pretty much it. Every week we're practicing hard.
What was different about that first Friday game that you guys played in?
It was like a high school, going back to high school more, playing on Friday, but nothing really changed. Just a shorter week, so you're trying to get everything in almost like 2 days, really. So.
You like playing on Friday?
Yes, you get the weekend off, so that's a good part. But the week be short, so it's like so.
Did you travel to Purdue as a freshman?
Yes, I did.
What stood out to you? I realize you didn't play as much, but what stood out to you of that stadium, that experience? And what it was like there?
They're trying to win. That's all I feel like about any Big Ten team that's losing in the conference. Like every week, they're still trying to win the game. So like nobody's in the Big Ten trying to take off a game or nothing. Like that team. Remember, Michigan State was ranked 3 that year. We went in there and they started whooping us, started getting throwbacks, all type of things, and we lost that game. So. We know this game is a big game for us. Every game is a big game.
So is this a little bit of almost like your get back tour a little bit? Because obviously you never played state, you were there, but you never beat Ohio State. Now you did. Now you got a team you didn't beat before, an opportunity.
Yeah, I was thinking like that, but like I said, I'm still focused on the season, man. We got one season ahead of us, so taking this one game at a time.
What have you seen from their running back? What makes him unique?
Which one?
45.
He's powerful, he's explosive, he's hitting the gaps, great player. They got 2 good running backs back there. They both hitting the hole. They're very explosive. So that's going to be the guys we need to stop.
A lot of tape on their quarterback. I've seen the quarterback, but he impressed last week with his legs a little bit. What did you see from him on tape?
He's going to use his legs for sure. You give him a lane, he's going to take it and try to hurt you in that area. So just keeping him contained in the cage, that's our ability.
What was the differences? Did you guys look at any of the film kind of before the last game at all? Do you compare it, the offense before, to what you saw the past game?
Who are we talking about?
Purdue.
Yeah, I guess they changed their OC or something like that. So we were really just watching that Iowa game from last week, seeing what they did. They put up 49 points, so still got to watch the offense, see what they did, see what they changed up.
Derrick Harmon, the Oregon defensive lineman, talking with us there. And I'll tell you, I have that question, like I alluded to earlier. You got a new quarterback after Hudson Card got hurt. Now Ryan Brown played really well. They still lost, gave up 50 points, went for 2, tried to score it there and win the game, didn't get it, and now the Boilermakers, things look a little different for them with Ryan Walters, a defensive head coach, now calling the plays for the second time ever. He said he had never called plays offensively before last week. In the second half, the Boilermakers really got it going, had a lot of momentum. Even after a loss, maybe still have some momentum. And the Ducks had to go on the road and play that Purdue team here coming up. They're in a rebuild, as you heard Tim Newton, voice of the Boilermakers, mention, but nonetheless, got to be ready. 2-minute drill brought to you by Cafe Yum, serving fresh food fast with organic ingredients, restaurants throughout the Northwest. Cafe Yum, home of the Ducks. Tomorrow in Lincoln, Oregon soccer at 5 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock start for both Oregon football and Oregon volleyball on the road on Friday. Men's tennis is in the ITA Northwest Regionals. Oregon softball against Oregon Tech this weekend at the Jane, and a whole lot more for you tomorrow. Coach's show tonight. We'll talk to Coach Lennon and Kobe Savage. See ya.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow, you sound just like